Here's something that might surprise you. The simplest, smallest changes you make today could lead to the biggest transformations in your future. And guess what? Most people completely overlook this fact. We're going to dive deep into exactly why, and more importantly, how you can harness tiny changes to completely alter your life trajectory. So, if you've ever struggled with motivation, procrastination, or just sticking to your goals, then trust me, this video is exactly what you need. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful self-improvement books ever written, Atomic Habits by James Clear. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the smallest habits lead to massive success. We're going to explore why tiny 1% improvements can compound into life-changing results, how your identity shapes your habits more powerfully than your goals, the hidden secrets behind building good habits, and finally breaking the bad ones. So let's not waste another moment. We'll start with a few real-life scenarios to ground us in these ideas. Imagine being stuck in traffic daily, letting stress pile up, and never actually changing the route you take. Then one day, you realize there's a side street that cuts your commute by 5 minutes. That's a small change, but over months or years, those minutes add up and save you hours. Hours that could be spent exercising, bonding with family, or even learning a new skill. Or consider the friend who complains about never being able to read more. Then you visit their apartment and see that their books are hidden in a closet somewhere, while the TV remote is front and center on the coffee table. The simplest tweak, placing a book on top of that remote, can be the spark that changes everything. Tiny shifts can lead to massive changes. That's the heart of James Clear's philosophy, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Oh, and be sure to stick around till the very end, because we'll be sharing final reflections, surprising insights, and encouragements. You'll walk away with a brand new lens on how the smallest steps can lead to the biggest breakthroughs in every aspect of your life. James Clear explains how he first stumbled upon the power of small habits. If you've ever faced a life-altering challenge, you'll connect with his story. James Clear tells us about a terrifying accident back in high school, a flying baseball bat, a severe facial injury, and a grueling path to recovery. What's so compelling isn't just the drama of the accident, though it is gripping, but the lesson it taught him. Transformation often begins with tiny steps forward. Clear didn't wake up the next morning instantly restored as the star athlete he once was. Instead, he faced months, even years, of incremental progress, rebuilding his strength and relearning basic skills through painstakingly small actions every single day. And this arduous process taught him a powerful lesson. True transformation isn't the result of sudden heroic acts, but rather the gradual accumulation of tiny, consistent steps. At first glance, you might wonder, can tiny steps genuinely make a meaningful difference? Or is this just common sense packaged in new wrapping? James Clear not only anticipates this skepticism, he answers it powerfully throughout his book, Atomic Habits. Clear reveals exactly how these seemingly minor habits compound into extraordinary results by laying out a precise, actionable framework he calls the 4 laws of behavior change. In the upcoming sections, we'll unpack exactly why these micro-actions carry such transformative power, diving into the psychology and science behind the incredible compound effect of small habits. Why tiny changes make a big difference. James Clear captures this brilliantly when he says, "Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement." Let's unpack this profound idea, step by step. Clear opens with the compelling story of British cycling. For nearly 100 years, the British cycling team was mediocre at best. They were so consistently bad, in fact, that top cycling brands hesitated to sponsor them, afraid that association might harm their reputation. Then, something remarkable happened in the early 2000s. Dave Brailsford, the team's new performance director, introduced a philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains. This involved making tiny, incremental improvements, just 1% better in every possible aspect. They didn't just look at their training programs or nutrition. They improved the comfort of bike seats, optimized tire pressures, refined massage gels, and even enhanced hand-washing techniques to prevent illness. Did these tiny changes really matter? Well, within 5 years, the British cycling team completely transformed, dominating the cycling world. They won multiple Olympic gold medals and multiple Tour de France victories, achievements previously considered impossible for the team. Imagine you're aiming to improve just 1% each day. It seems trivial at first, barely noticeable. But here's the catch. If you consistently improve by just 1% each day, after a year, you'd be nearly 37 times better than when you started. Conversely, getting 1% worse every day leaves you spiraling towards zero. Say you commit to doing 1 push-up today, 2 tomorrow, and 3 the next day. It's laughably easy at the start. But within months, you'd be performing hundreds of push-ups monthly, reshaping your body and health through what began as a tiny commitment. Clear introduces another critical concept called the plateau of latent potential. Picture this. You're heating an ice cube, and at 29, 30, and even 31 degrees Fahrenheit, nothing happens. It remains frozen. But raise the temperature just 1 more degree, to 32 degrees, and suddenly the ice melts. This scenario perfectly illustrates the journey of habit formation. Initially, your small efforts might seem to yield no visible results, leading to what's called the valley of disappointment. Many people lose motivation here because they don't see immediate changes. Maybe you've experienced this. You're dieting strictly, but the scale doesn't budge after 2 weeks. You're diligently saving money, but your bank account still feels empty after a month. You're consistently working on your side business, yet no sales or traction occurs right away. But here's the key lesson. Progress is often invisible until it reaches a critical tipping point. Like the ice cube melting at 32 degrees, your consistent efforts eventually compound into dramatic results. The issue? Most people quit at 31 degrees, just before their breakthrough. Now ask yourself, are you sitting at 31 degrees in some area of your life right now? Maybe you've been applying for jobs and keep facing rejection, working hard on your startup without seeing immediate sales, or practicing a skill that doesn't seem to improve. Whatever it is, recognize that you might be just one tiny step from significant progress. Don't quit before the ice melts. The journey of self-improvement often feels thankless at first, like planting seeds. You water them every day, and nothing seems to change. But beneath the surface, roots are forming, preparing for explosive growth. Remember, invisible progress is still progress. In Chapter 2 of the book, How Your Habits Shape Your Identity and Vice Versa, James Clear introduces a transformative idea: the crucial difference between outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. But what are those? Outcome-based habits. These focus solely on achieving a specific result. For example, you might say, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to complete a half marathon. While outcome-based goals can initially motivate you, they often lead to short-lived results, because once you achieve the goal, you might lose motivation and revert to old patterns. Identity-based habits. These habits revolve around becoming the kind of person who naturally embodies your desired behaviors. Instead of merely wanting to lose weight, you might tell yourself, I am the type of person who makes healthy eating choices every day. Rather than running a marathon as your end goal, you become a runner. Clear argues that identity-based habits hold the key to lasting change. When a habit aligns closely with your identity, it becomes ingrained in your self-perception. You're no longer battling willpower. You're simply living in alignment with who you believe you are. This psychological shift dramatically improves your consistency, even during difficult times. Think about someone who says, I'm trying to quit smoking, versus someone who firmly states, I'm not a smoker. The first person sees themselves as a smoker struggling to change, which inherently makes each temptation an uphill battle. The second person, however, sees smoking as fundamentally incompatible with their identity. They have redefined who they are at their core. Imagine you're struggling with productivity at work. An outcome-based goal might be, I need to finish the quarterly report by Friday. While specific and actionable, this doesn't necessarily shift your underlying behavior. Now let's transform this into an identity-based habit. I am someone who stays organized and consistently meets deadlines. By adopting this identity, every small decision, such as prioritizing your tasks or resisting procrastination, becomes a reflection of who you genuinely believe you are. Instead of feeling pressure just around deadlines, you naturally behave productively every day. The key takeaways are: identity drives behavior. Your behavior is a mirror of your self-image. If you want to make lasting changes, start by reshaping your identity. Small actions reinforce identity. Each small action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Want to be a reader? Each page you read casts a vote. Aspire to financial responsibility? Every time you budget or save, you're reinforcing that identity. Habits that align with your identity stick. If you see yourself as healthy, you'll instinctively pass on the junk food aisle. But if deep down you think you're someone who always cheats on diets, you'll inevitably find yourself reaching for unhealthy snacks when you're stressed or tired. Take a moment right now and think deeply. Who do you want to become? Do you aspire to become a writer? Begin with a habit of writing just 50 words daily. Want to see yourself as financially responsible? Spend 2 minutes tracking your expenses every evening. Dream of being a lifelong learner. Commit to watching an educational video or reading one insightful article each day. By consistently performing these small actions, you're casting powerful votes for the identity you desire. Over time, these votes accumulate, solidifying your new identity and making your desired habits effortless. Now that you understand the importance of identity in shaping habits, you're ready to explore the science behind habit formation. In the next chapter, we'll unpack the 4-step framework behind every habit: cue, craving, response, and reward. How to build better habits in 4 steps. James Clear integrates ideas from neurological research, among others, to create a simple but potent framework for every habit. The 4 steps are: cue, the trigger that signals your brain to initiate a habit; craving, the motivational force or desire that drives you to act; response, the actual action you perform; reward, the satisfying outcome that reinforces the habit, ensuring you'll repeat it in the future. Think of a habit you already have. For instance, if you always eat a snack while watching Netflix, the cue might be plopping onto the couch with your remote in hand. The craving is relaxation or pleasure. The response is grabbing a bag of chips. The reward is feeling satisfied while binge-watching your favorite show. But why does this matter so much? Understanding this cycle is crucial if you want to effectively build new habits or break old ones. If a habit isn't sticking, the issue might lie within one of these 4 areas. Maybe your new habit's cue isn't obvious enough, leaving you without a clear trigger. Or perhaps the reward isn't compelling, leaving you without sufficient motivation to repeat the behavior. Let's say you want to build a consistent study habit. A simple yet powerful step would be leaving your textbooks or notes out on your desk. This acts as an immediate cue. Seeing your study materials triggers a craving, either curiosity about learning something new or the relief from avoiding guilt. Your response is to sit down and study for, say, 20 minutes. Completing this task generates a sense of accomplishment, reward. Over time, your brain links seeing textbooks with the satisfying feeling of achievement, reinforcing this productive habit loop. And here's the exciting part. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Up next, we'll explore Clear's transformative 4 laws of behavior change, revealing exactly how to master your cues, amplify your cravings, optimize your responses, and maximize your rewards to effortlessly shape the habits you've always wanted. The first law, make it obvious. This law addresses the first step, cue. The triggers that spark your habits. If the cue is hidden or too subtle, you're less likely to initiate the behavior you want. Let's explore how James Clear uses vivid storytelling and practical exercises to demonstrate this concept. James Clear shares a compelling story about a seasoned medical professional who could detect when something was amiss in a patient simply by observing subtle cues. This isn't about supernatural intuition. It's about the brain's extraordinary ability to pick up on tiny environmental signals through repeated exposure. Clear uses this example to illustrate that our brains are constantly filtering and reacting to cues, often without us even realizing it. Clear urges us to become more mindful of the cues in our lives. The idea is simple. If you want to change your habits, you first need to see the prompts that trigger them. It's like having a remote control for your behavior, but if you can't see the remote, you're bound to miss the signal. One of the most practical tools Clear recommends is the habit scorecard. This exercise involves writing down every single habit you perform in a typical day, whether it's checking your phone first thing in the morning, brushing your teeth, or making a cup of coffee. Once you've listed these habits, the next step is to label each one as beneficial, neutral, or detrimental. Why go through all this trouble? Because creating a habit scorecard forces you to see the hidden patterns in your daily routine. It shines a light on those small, unconscious actions that can add up to major results over time, both good and bad. Think of a friend who complains, "I never get enough free time." Then you observe them. They go from one 10-minute phone check to a 20-minute social media scroll, then a 30-minute chat about random gossip. By the day's end, they've whittled away hours. The cue is boredom or that phone's presence. The response is picking it up and diving into the digital world. The reward is momentary entertainment. By using a habit scorecard, they'd see the magnitude of these hidden moments. Next, we'll learn how to intentionally plant or remove cues to trigger the right habits. The best way to start a new habit is to establish clear, actionable steps that anchor your commitment from day one. James Clear dives into a game-changing strategy for habit formation that transforms vague intentions into actionable, consistent routines. The key idea is that success isn't just about wanting to exercise or read more. It's about specifying exactly when and where you'll perform these actions. This approach, known as implementation intentions, can dramatically increase your success rate by turning your goals into concrete plans. Instead of saying, "I want to exercise," you set a clear plan. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., I will jog around the neighborhood for 20 minutes. This specificity not only removes ambiguity, but also creates a mental cue that prompts you into action at the right moment. Research shows that when you specify the context of your behavior, you're far more likely to follow through because your brain knows exactly what to expect. The key lesson here is that by defining the when and where of your habit, you reduce decision fatigue and create a clear blueprint for success. This strategy is like having a personal assistant in your head that keeps your goals on schedule. Building on this idea, Clear introduces the brilliant technique of habit stacking. This method involves pairing a new desired habit with an existing routine that you already perform reliably. For example, you might say, "After I brew my morning coffee, I will read for 5 minutes. After I brush my teeth at night, I will do 10 squats." By stacking the new action onto something you already do without fail, you anchor the new habit to a well-established cue. Habit stacking leverages the power of existing routines, making it easier to adopt new behaviors without having to overhaul your entire day. The smaller the addition, the less resistance your mind puts up, paving the way for lasting change. Imagine you always eat a cookie after dinner. If you're trying to reduce sweets, you might replace it with a habit stack. After I finish washing the dishes, existing habit, I will enjoy a cup of herbal tea, new habit. Sure, the first few nights might feel like a betrayal to your cookie jar, but once your brain links dishwashing to tea time, you'll barely miss that sugar rush. But here's a twist. What if you're worried that even with these structured plans, you might struggle to stay motivated? That concern leads us right into the next chapter, where Clear boldly states, motivation is overrated. He argues that the true powerhouse behind habit formation is not motivation at all, it's your environment. Your environment shapes your choices far more than fleeting motivation ever will. Have you ever rearranged your living room only to suddenly feel a wave of calm wash over you? That's environment design in action. Clear cites an insightful example. When healthy foods are placed at eye level in a cafeteria, people are more likely to choose them. The environment structure influences behavior more than willpower alone. The simple trick here is to design your environment so that your desired habits are impossible to miss. For instance, if you want to practice guitar, place it in the middle of the room, not hidden in a closet. If you want to stretch each morning, keep a yoga mat rolled out by your bedside. Modern psychological studies back this up. Our surroundings can account for over 80% of our daily choices. We often think of ourselves as rational decision makers. But if the potato chips are staring us in the face and the apples are tucked away in the crisper, guess what we'll end up eating? To summarize, simple environmental changes can trigger positive behaviors effortlessly. By placing visual reminders in unavoidable spots, like sticky notes on your laptop, you increase the likelihood of turning intentions into actions. Reducing friction further reinforces good habits. When the desired behavior becomes the easiest option, your brain naturally follows. For example, keeping a water bottle in sight while hiding soda encourages healthier choices with minimal effort. Take one habit you want to cultivate and ask yourself, how can I make the trigger unavoidably obvious? Maybe that means placing a sticky note on your laptop reminding you to take a stretch break every hour. Maybe it's rearranging your desk so the water bottle is in front of you and the soda is out of sight. Next up, we reveal the secret to self-control. Spoiler, it's not about being superhuman. Instead, it's about strategically removing temptations from your environment. True self-control is achieved when you proactively design your surroundings for success. Clear argues that the most effective way to manage a habit is not to rely solely on willpower, but to simply avoid the cue altogether. Think about it. If you want to quit smoking, don't just steel yourself against the urge. Steer clear of the places, people, and situations that spark that craving. The myth of exposure builds discipline can actually backfire because our willpower has its limits and wears thin over time. Let's say you want to stop mindlessly scrolling social media at night. A workable approach is charging your phone in a different room. By the time you're in bed, you won't have immediate access to the glowing screen. You've effectively removed the cue from your environment. For 1 week, pick a habit you're trying to break, perhaps the habit of late-night social media scrolling or snacking on junk food. Make a deliberate change. Remove the obvious cues. Charge your phone in another room or rearrange your kitchen so that healthy foods are front and center. Track your behavior and observe the difference. Often, you'll find that when the trigger isn't there, the habit starts to fade on its own. Summary of first law. Make it obvious. Identify and shape your environment so that the cues for good habits are as clear and visible as a neon sign, and the cues for bad habits are hidden away like lost socks under the couch. Next, we venture into the second law, make it attractive. Because let's face it, even if something is obvious, you might not do it if it doesn't excite you. Let's see how to harness human desire, dopamine, and social influence to your advantage. The second law, make it attractive. We've tackled the cue stage. Now it's all about craving. If we can make healthy, productive, or positive habits inherently enticing, we drastically increase the odds of sticking to them. What are the key elements that make a habit so attractive it becomes hard to resist? James Clear highlights the role of dopamine, which is released not just when we receive a reward, but in anticipation of it. In other words, craving is half the fun. Think about the rush you feel before biting into your favorite dessert or right before you see your package has been delivered. This strategy is pure genius. Pair something you need to do with something you want to do. For example, only listen to your favorite podcast while jogging or only watch Netflix while doing household chores. Because you're eager for the entertainment, you end up performing the less appealing habit as well. If you're trying to catch up on personal development reading but can't tear yourself away from social media, decide to do 10 minutes of reading first, then let yourself scroll for 5 minutes as a reward. Over time, you might find reading less of a chore and the craving merges with your new routine. Next, we delve into the effect of friends and family. Because let's face it, if you hang out with folks who never read, you might not feel so motivated to keep burying your nose in a book. The people around you are not just companions, they're powerful mirrors that reflect and reinforce your daily habits. Ever heard, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with"? Clear underscores that our habits are deeply influenced by our social environment. We naturally mimic the close, daily interactions with those around us. The many, the cultural norms that dominate our community. The powerful, behaviors modeled by successful or influential people. For example, if your friends hit the gym, you're more likely to join them without even thinking twice. On the flip side, if your circle smokes or indulges in unhealthy behaviors, quitting can be a real challenge. A friend group that schedules group study sessions or group cooking nights can help you maintain your reading habit or healthy eating habits. You see it as a shared activity, not a solo struggle. Imagine you're trying to save money, but your 3 best friends believe that shopping therapy is a daily necessity. Trying to adopt frugal habits in that environment is like trying to avoid water while swimming in a pool. Good luck with that. But what if your normal is a bunch of negative habits? James Clear next covers how to spot and fix the triggers that lead to these behaviors. What strategies can you use to uncover and fix the root causes of your bad habits? Every bad habit stems from some underlying craving, stress relief, comfort, acceptance. Often, that craving can be met by a different, healthier behavior. So if you find yourself binge-watching until 3 a.m. because you're stressed, maybe yoga or an evening walk might provide the same relief in a healthier way. Clear talks about how reframing a habit can make it more appealing. For instance, instead of thinking, "I have to go to the gym," you might say, "I get to improve my stamina, mood, and stress levels today." It might sound corny, but psychological research consistently shows that reappraising an event in a positive light can transform your emotional experience. If your bad habit is smoking, break down the craving, relaxation, social connection, etc. Can you get that in a different way, like a quick breathing exercise or stepping outside for fresh air? Summary of second law: make it attractive. By pairing desires, surrounding yourself with supportive people, and reframing habits, you can transform a boring routine into an experience you look forward to. Now that we know how to make habits obvious and attractive, let's tackle the third law. Make it easy. Because even if you want to do something, if it's complicated or time-consuming, you might bail out. Stay with us. The third law: make it easy. At the response phase, friction can kill your newly forming habit. If writing in your journal requires you to unearth it from a dusty attic trunk each time, guess what? You won't do it. The third law says, remove friction so your new habit flows like a lazy river. Even if your progress feels slow, never retreat. Each forward step, however small, builds the path to lasting success. Clear cites that habits form through frequency, not time. We often hear, it takes 21 days to form a habit, but that's misleading. It's more accurate to say that you need multiple repetitions. You can do something daily for 21 days but remain half-hearted. Alternatively, you might do many short, frequent sessions in 10 days and get it locked in. Clear recounts a story about a professor who split a photography class into two groups, one graded on quantity of photos and the other on quality. The quantity group ended up producing higher quality photos overall because they practiced more. Reps trumped waiting for perfection. So if you're dreaming of writing a novel, don't aim for one perfect page per week. Instead, try writing several messy pages every day. You'll hone your craft much faster, and trust me, those imperfect pages are far more valuable than an elusive perfect one. How can you design your environment so that the easiest, most natural choices are the right ones? We naturally choose the path of least resistance. If you want to watch less TV, remove the batteries from the remote, or unplug the TV entirely. Want to start drinking more water? Keep a water bottle right on your desk. This concept is about making the desired action simpler than the undesired one. Environment priming is all about setting up your surroundings to support your goals, making your desired behaviors as effortless as possible. For example, laying out your gym clothes the night before eliminates any morning hesitation, so you're ready to hit the gym without second thoughts. Similarly, spending a little time on Sunday to chop veggies in bulk ensures that healthy options are at your fingertips during the busy week, steering you away from unhealthy temptations. These simple adjustments in your environment pave the way for a smoother, more consistent routine, transforming your intentions into automatic actions. After a long day, if you always default to fast food because cooking feels like climbing Everest. Now, imagine your fridge cheerfully displaying pre-prepped meals. It practically shouts, "Dinner's done." Much easier than wrestling with a drive-through menu when you're exhausted. How can a simple, immediate action help you break free from procrastination? This might be one of the most approachable tips in the entire book. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Quick wins can be a game changer when you're trying to build a new habit. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by lofty goals, start small. If you want to read more, begin by reading just one paragraph before bed. If you're aiming to jog regularly, simply put on your running shoes and step outside for 2 minutes. This approach applies to almost any habit. Take journaling, for example. Commit to writing one sentence, and once that first sentence is on the page, the momentum often builds naturally, making it easier to continue. By focusing on these tiny, manageable steps, you lower the barrier to starting and gradually build the confidence and consistency that lead to lasting change. It sounds almost too easy, but that's the point. If you can't commit to the simplest version of the habit, you certainly won't maintain a bigger version. But once you're dressed for a run and standing outside, you're far more likely to follow through. How do you create a system that makes doing the right thing feel automatic while blocking out the wrong choices? Here, Clear discusses commitment devices, choices you make now that lock in future behavior. For instance, pay for a non-refundable healthy meal service, or schedule a session with a personal trainer. If you've already invested financially, you're more likely to follow through. Commitment devices are powerful tools that help lock in your future behavior by creating conditions that favor your long-term goals. For example, investing in a non-refundable healthy meal service or scheduling sessions with a personal trainer makes it harder to back out because you've already committed resources up front. This financial or emotional investment acts as a motivational catalyst. When you've already paid for something, you're far more inclined to follow through on it rather than waste what you've spent. Another effective strategy is to automate aspects of your daily routine to minimize decision-making friction. Setting up automatic bank transfers to savings, using recurring digital reminders, or subscribing to services that deliver healthy groceries and curated book selections streamlines your life. These automation techniques work as silent enforcers, ensuring that the healthy choices or productive behaviors you want to adopt happen consistently without requiring active thought or constant self-discipline. In essence, by removing friction for good habits and intentionally adding friction for bad ones, like the playful tactic of freezing your credit card in a block of ice to curb impulsive spending, you build a structure that keeps you on track. This strategic design not only reinforces positive behaviors, but also discourages detrimental ones, creating an environment where your actions naturally align with your goals and long-term aspirations. Summary of third law. Make it as easy as possible. Focus on repetition and environment design. Remember, done is better than perfect. Now, you might be doing all these steps, making it obvious, attractive, and easy. But if there's no satisfaction or reward, you won't stick to it. That's what the fourth law is all about. The fourth law, make it satisfying. Ever heard the phrase, the reward is key? It's spot on. Our brains are hardwired to repeat behaviors that leave us feeling good. In the habit loop, that final rewarding feeling reinforces the craving, making us more likely to stick with the behavior. Clear calls it the cardinal rule. Behaviors that are rewarded get repeated. Behaviors that are punished get avoided. If a new habit is unsatisfying, you'll quickly drop it. This is why diets often fail. People feel deprived, not rewarded. Humans are wired for instant rewards. Long-term payoffs, like better health a year from now, aren't as compelling as the immediate pleasure of eating a donut. Let's be honest, we're all a little bit addicted to instant gratification. Sure, you might know that eating a donut isn't the healthiest option, but the immediate pleasure it gives far outweighs the abstract promise of better health months or even years down the road. Introduce a small, immediate reward to your new habit. For example, every time you complete a workout, drop $1 into a jar that's earmarked for a guilt-free treat, like a fun outing or a new gadget you've been eyeing. Or if you manage to write 500 words, treat yourself to a delicious fruit smoothie. Notice we're not choosing ice cream or something that undermines the habit's spirit. Why do some habits stick like glue while others slip away the moment life gets busy? Consistency is king, and habit tracking is your best friend. Whether you use a notebook, an app, or a simple calendar, visually marking each successful day triggers a little dopamine surge. You see your streak building up. Don't break the chain becomes a motivating mantra. Clear shares a story about a salesperson who moved a paperclip from one jar to another each time he made a sales call. Seeing those paperclips steadily move over created a visual measure of progress. We humans love measurable progress. That's why some people are borderline addicted to checking off items on their to-do lists. You could do the same with push-ups. Move a coin from one jar to another for every push-up, or even track your daily water intake with small tokens. The point is to create a tangible representation of your progress. Sometimes, the secret sauce is a little social pressure. When you have an accountability partner, you're essentially adding a human safety net to your habit journey. It's like saying, "Hey, I'm in this together," or even, "Don't make me pay you $10 if you skip the gym." When you commit to someone else, you add a layer of responsibility that makes it much harder to slack off. We're naturally social creatures who care about our reputation. If skipping a habit means disappointing someone or losing a bit of cash, you're more inclined to stick to your plan. It's not just about personal discipline, it's about not wanting to let your friend down or end up on the hook for a chore. We've now gone through the 4 laws. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. But that's not all. The next section covers advanced tactics. Ever wonder how to go from pretty good to incredible? Sometimes you've already mastered the basics. You've got solid habits and things are running smoothly. But here's the real deal. How do you keep that excellence from turning into complacency? How do you stay in the game when you're no longer the newbie? James Clear dives into these questions with some truly eye-opening insights. Ever wonder if natural talent is truly destiny, or could your daily environment and habits hold the real power? Clear reminds us that while genetics and natural abilities do play a role, after all, if you're 7 feet tall, basketball might be in your DNA more than horse racing. Your daily environment and habits are the ultimate game changers. Tailor your habits to fit your natural strengths and preferences. Hate running but love to move. Switch gears and try dancing through a Zumba or hip-hop class. Not a fan of crowded gyms? Set up your own home workout space where you can rock out without the social spotlight. Essentially, choose the path of least resistance that aligns with who you are. It's like picking your favorite ice cream flavor. If chocolate just isn't your thing, why force it when vanilla might make you just as happy? The key idea is to find a version of a habit that suits your natural tendencies. If you hate running but love dancing, pick Zumba or hip-hop classes. If you're an introvert who hates crowds, find a smaller gym or do home workouts. The path of least resistance often aligns with your natural inclinations. But how do you stay motivated in life and work? Remember Goldilocks? Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. That's the sweet spot for staying motivated too. Clear explains that we perform best when our challenges are balanced perfectly. Not too easy that we get bored, and not so hard that we throw in the towel. We stay most motivated when tasks are at the edge of our abilities. Not too easy, not too hard. It's like playing a video game. If level 1 is too simple, we get bored. If level 50 is impossible, we get frustrated. But if each new level is just challenging enough, we're hooked. If you're learning guitar, constantly challenge yourself with slightly harder songs, but not so challenging that you feel helpless. This just right difficulty keeps your brain engaged. If you're losing motivation, you might need to adjust the challenge level. Either find a slightly more difficult version of what you're already doing or dial it down if it's too frustrating. Is there a downside to creating good habits? Clear warns about complacency. Even when you've got a killer routine, there's a trap lurking: complacency. Clear warns that when you've been doing something long enough, it can slip into autopilot. I always get up at 5 a.m. to run. I'm good now. But being good might just mean you're stuck on a plateau. Schedule a habit audit every few months. This means taking a step back to evaluate if your routine is still pushing you forward. Ask yourself, is my routine still serving me? What tweaks can I make to keep growing? It's like checking your phone's battery. If you never see that low battery warning, you might be using your phone in a way that's not sustainable in the long run. Actionable steps. Before we close out, let's break down 4 essential and practical steps to help you redesign your daily routines with modern psychological insights. Make it obvious. Rearrange your space so that the cues for your desired habits are in plain sight. For instance, if you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow or your desk. Write down all your daily actions and label them as positive, negative, or neutral. This creates awareness and reveals which habits need tweaking. By externalizing your routines, you shift from autopilot to conscious choice. Visual cues not only remind you of your goals, but also trigger the right behaviors automatically. This cue reinforcement primes your brain for success. Make it attractive. Pair a task you need to do with an activity you love. For example, only listen to your favorite podcast when exercising. Transform "I have to" into "I get to." Instead of dreading the gym, think of it as a chance to boost energy, reduce stress, and celebrate your body's potential. Dopamine isn't just about rewards, it's about the anticipation. When you bundle tasks and reframe challenges positively, you harness the power of anticipation, making the process itself something to look forward to rather than a chore. Make it easy. Scale down new habits to a version that takes 2 minutes or less. If you want to journal, commit to just writing 1 sentence. Simplify your routines by preparing in advance. Lay out your workout clothes the night before or set up your work desk to minimize distractions. The less effort required, the more likely you'll stick with it. When habits are easy to start, your brain doesn't feel overwhelmed, and you build momentum with each small success. This ease leads to consistency, which in turn solidifies the habit loop. Make it satisfying. Use a habit tracker or calendar to mark each day you stick to your habit. The visual proof of your progress is highly rewarding. Pair your habit with a small positive reward. This could be treating yourself to a coffee after a workout or a few minutes of your favorite music after a study session. Our brains are wired for immediate gratification. By giving yourself a quick reward, you create a positive feedback loop that reinforces the behavior, making it more likely to be repeated. This immediate satisfaction bridges the gap between effort and long-term benefits. We've traveled a long path through the ideas of James Clear's Atomic Habits. But here's the final gut check. What are you going to do next? It's easy to be entertained or even enlightened by these insights, but real transformation comes when you implement them. Imagine 1 year from now, looking back on this day and thinking, that was the day I took my first 1% improvement seriously. Maybe you started going to bed 15 minutes earlier. Maybe you committed to reading a single page each day. Perhaps you decided to talk to your kids at dinner without the TV on. Whatever it is, if you keep that tiny habit rolling, you'll be stunned at how drastically your life can change 365 days later. The best part? You won't even realize how big the shift is until you're living in a completely different reality. Healthier, happier, more fulfilled. If these ideas resonate with you, absolutely read the full book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. We've barely scratched the surface of all his personal stories, detailed case studies, and nuanced techniques. The real power, though, lies in applying these principles in your daily life. Remember, success doesn't require a dramatic shift overnight. It requires small, consistent victories, just like those 1% improvements. Over time, they lead to massive success. So no matter where you are right now, trust the process. Tiny habits, massive results. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I'll catch you in the next one, because it only gets better from here. Hit that subscribe button if you want more deep dives into life-changing books, ideas, and personal growth strategies. Imagine 1 year from now, looking back on this day and thinking, that was the day I took my first 1% improvement seriously. Maybe you started going to bed 15 minutes earlier. Maybe you committed to reading a sin.